Hello, welcome to Ephemera Files by Tommy and our continuing story of how to make this journal that I am calling Mildred's Roses. I am doing this in conjunction with Lindsey Zenor at Nevermore Creations 17, and this is her Marketplace Challenge for July, and I will link her below. And today we're going to be looking at what to do with white pages and a little bit of using stencils, stamps, and sprays. Because personally, I don't like blank white pages. I want there to be just a little bit of something on there. I can't tell you why. It's probably a psychological thing. I don't know, that it looks unfinished. But I like to have at least, even if it's a subtle little stencil down in one little corner of the page, that just seems to make it all better for me. So we're going to go through some ways that I deal with white pages. And some of that includes, like I said, stencils, stamps, and sprays. Some of it includes gluing pages together, like this one. This one is printed on cardstock, but it was white on the back, just a bright white. And I wanted to finish off the back in some way, and I really like to use my dyed prints. These are available in my shop, and sometimes I'll use graph paper, sometimes I'll use lined writing paper like from a composition book. This time I used a print, and before I glue them together, I did go ahead and glue this one together real quick. Before I glue them together, I go around all of the edges and I stencil with a color that will coordinate with the rest of the book that I am going to use. I do not worry about the edges lining up right now. I may not worry about them at all. It just depends on when it comes together, how it comes together. So we'll set this one over here. Well, right back where it was. And this one, I'm doing the same way as I just did that one, but I'm going to show you how I do it. I do not need this note anymore because it was about how to tear the pages. So this is a print of handmade onion paper. This is a print from Lindsey's kit. And so I want to make sure that one's right side up. This one, it doesn't matter. On this one, I also needed to make sure they were both right side up because of the gap at the top on the writing paper. Although it would not have ruined the book had it not been right side up. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my palest ink that I'm using. This just happens to be antique linen, but you can use whatever color you want. And since I'm gluing these together, I will use this for my over inking for my edge. Speed this part up because most of you know how to ink. And if you don't, then this little part that I'm still keeping in should be of a help. You do not have to come in this far. It's just that I'm using a big brush and it's going to come in further. And we'll repeat on this second page. Since this part on the inside isn't going to show, it makes a very good mat for your inking. All right, I'm done with the inking. Put my tools away over here. And this is simply to cover any edges. See, my pages are not exactly the same measurements. You can see that I'm off about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch on the other two sides. And the reason that we ink is so that that doesn't really matter. It ends up adding to a collage type look. Now, to glue these together, I am not going to glue all the way to the edges, because I may want to add some lace or something and tuck it into the edges. This is mostly to hold it together until I have finalized what I want to do with the book. And then I can come back with my Fabri-Tac and glue those edges down, or I can go with my sewing machine and sew the edges down. And I am just eyeballing center on this because I know, like I said, that I'm going to have some overhang. And I'll get my squeegee out. I don't know where I got this, but I do think it's a painting supply. Like, I don't know. It says BioColor. So I believe it has something to do with paint. This white edge here, I will probably come back and ink after I make sure what I'm going to do. I'm not going to ink it if I'm going to put some lace there that's going to cover it up. Now, this page is going to be a little different because of this. I cut this tab out. I fussy cut it after doing all of the other measuring. And the rest of these notes, I don't need any more either. So on this one, I have decided that with this flap right here, or this tab that is cut out, I am going to fold it over let's do this so that I can get a nice straight. I'm not worried about anything else being straight, but I want my flap to be straight so everything else doesn't go wonkier than what I want. And I am going to use this as a hinge for one of my smaller pieces that I have here to create more writing space. So I could take this and glue it. Let me just take it off the little clothespin. I could take this and glue it under the flap, and then that would open and open. And so I'm not going to do anything with that hinge right now. I'm not going to glue it or anything, but I am going to take care of the rest of this particular paper. So once again, I am going to ink the edges like I just did. I will ink all of the back of this because I don't know which part might show. And then we will move on. All right, so those are inked, and both of these pages have a top side, so I definitely need to make sure that I get them top sides together. Let's see, I want to have room for that hinge to have a little play because it is going to have another layer there. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and just line up at this edge, and that way I have plenty of room for my flip flap to go over here. Okay, so now I know the plan. Now I get to glue. Oops, my head, sorry. If you don't have one of these squeegees, a bone folder works, your finger works, a credit card works, your hands will work even. I mean, don't forget those because they are always there. I almost said always handy. Whew, that would have been a bad joke. Okay, this one is the same as this one with the hinge, so I'm just going to do the same thing there. Okay, so there is that one. The next one here is a little different. This bird, if I had folded the picture in half, it would have, let's see, it would have been right about there, cutting off his tail. And I didn't want to cut off his tail. So it took a little thinking. And what I ended up doing was folding just past his tail. And this particular fold is 3 3/4. So it is less than the 4.5 inch pages. This side is 4.5 inches. And I folded over the excess that was the 4.5 inches on this side. And this is that piece of mulberry paper that we ripped in the ripping random pages tutorial. And what I'm going to do is extend this to where the mulberry paper, oh look at that, I was almost right on it, to where the mulberry paper creates this page to be, or helps this page to be 4.5 inches. Right there. And I'm going to get one of my clips back. And hold that there. And this fold over here is going to become a pocket. So I don't have to ink the edges of this piece, but I do need to ink the edges of this one. So I'm going to get a scrap paper and do that part. And then I'll show you how I am doing the rest of it. All right, so I am going to glue this mulberry paper down. I want to make sure it's semi-aligned. I don't want it to be all wonky. Just a little wonky is fine. And I am going to check to see if it goes all the way to the edge, which I believe it does. Just almost all the way to the edge. And I'm going to go ahead and put some glue down so that my mulberry paper doesn't shift while I'm putting the rest of the glue down. So we'll go right along here because I know it comes this far. And I know it goes over the edge here. So I'll just go ahead and glue up that edge. I know that it doesn't go all the way to that fold, so I'm not going to glue there because I do not want to mess up the usability of that pocket. Okay, mulberry paper is fairly strong. It seems very fragile, but it's pretty strong, so you can use your scraper or bone folder or whatever it is that you use to get a good seal, adhesion does not sound like the right word. That sounds like a medical word, but I don't know. So you get a good contact. How about that? Everywhere that you're supposed to have it, and that you don't get a good contact where you don't want any contact. All right. I think I'll put just a little bit more glue right there. Not quite to the edge, but a little closer to the edge than it is. There we go. So there's step 1 of that page. And I am going to go ahead and create this pocket now, just so that I don't have to do it later. It's already ready to go. And for that, I'm going to need my 3-in-1. And when I fold pockets in on paper, I go down the sides, which most people would do. But I also put a stream or a stripe of glue right there at that fold, because I feel like it strengthens the fold just a little bit. It may or may not, but in my mind, I have more comfort and more confidence that is going to strengthen that fold right there, because folding paper weakens it. And in a journal, you do not want your pockets to be weak. All right, so I'm going to put a couple of clips on those. Sorry for my reach. And I will set that over to dry, but it can dry in the pile because it's not got anything that's going to be an issue. All right, the next page. This is the page where I tore off the tuberous begonias over here. But I wanted to keep the quote that was at the top. I did tear off part of the ink blotches there just so it would measure right, and I didn't have to figure out what to do with the little flap. But when I back it with this print, one of my coffee dyed prints of a rose, I have this big old space here that is totally white. And that is where some of the stenciling is going to come in. I pulled out, and I don't know why, I pulled out a bunch of my dot stencils. And I have a rose stencil right there. So I'm going to take note with my ruler of about where the blank space is. I may move it just a little further. I'm going to put that right there. I'm going to grab a bit of washi to hold my paper and my ruler in place so it doesn't shift. There we go. I use a lot of washi to hold things down as I'm working, but I don't throw the washi away when I'm done using it for that. I save the bits and pieces of the washi that I cut off or tear off or use for things like this, and I use them to make little collages in the journal, and you will see that in another video. So now I just need to choose which stencils I would like to use as the background. And I can use all of these. I can use none of these. I don't know which one I want to do, but I do think I'm going to start with the big dots. And I'm going to keep this here for color guidance, I guess would be the word. And funny enough, I don't have any blue over here. Huh. All right, so I grabbed some of my faded jeans. Ink, and I am going to, when I'm using this smaller stencils, when I'm just inking the edges, I don't usually worry about tapping off in the lid. But when I'm using a stencil, I tap it off in the lid so that I can make sure that I don't have so much ink on there that I have big blobbies, because that does happen. All right, so I'm going to just quickly go through and hit the circles, and I'm going to hit them randomly so that as the ink runs out, I don't know why I did that one up there. I know it's completely covered. As the ink runs out and lightens, it's not all in one spot that it's happening. So that my very lightest one is right next to, almost right next to my very darkest one. So there is that. I'm surprised I didn't grab any blue, knowing there was blue in the digitals. But I have it now. Let's see. The next color, the next darkest color is going to be probably this red. And I think that this one will match pretty well. It looks really bright in the pad, but it turns out like that on the paper. I would highly recommend labeling your ink pads. I did this with my white washi tape that I just used. And I just took a Q-tip and rubbed it on there. So, oh, I haven't picked out which stencil I'm going to use this on. You know what? I'm going to use this with this for the roses, so I'll set that to the side. So I think I'll go with the green next. And I have two greens over here, neither of which are very dark. I'm going to go with the bundled sage and grab another one of my circle stencils and another brush. Let's see. Let's go with, I think I'll do this one. I'm not going to do too many because I don't want to overwhelm the page. I would like for the flowers on the stencil to show through as well. So I'm just going to go in a random area. These are tiny little dots. Kind of have to push harder in some places to get it go through to go through darker. I do want to take them all the way to the edge. And I turned my stencil so that it wouldn't be in alignment with either the page or the previous stencil. That way it looks just a little more random. I like that. That turned out well. All right. So now I have too many tools going on over here at my side now. So now I am going to take, I'm done with my circle stencils, circles and dots. Now I'm going to take and figure out where I want my roses to be. And I think I just want a few down here. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I need to have this on there though so I can see where it's going to show. And ooh, I think that works really well, right? See a little less of that dark blue on that top rose. Yep, right there. So I'm going to get my washi tape and tape the stencil down because I do not want it to move while I'm doing this. All right, so let's pull that red back out that I was starting to use earlier, because I think that that'll pick up well on that red right there. This is definitely one that I want to test, and so I'll test it there because it's not going to show. And then I'm just going to very gently, since these lines are delicate and I don't want to get into the red leaves, very gently brush around. And then make sure and tap that off again. And I don't want to put the hearts in there either, so I'll have to be careful that I don't brush into them either. I'm just almost out of frame, but I've got everything taped down. So I just beg your patience on that. With that tiny little brush, I feel like I'm brushing a baby's teeth. You're just having to be so very careful. Okay, and I don't remember what color I used on that. Oh, that was the green. So I'm going to pull the other green out so that I get a little bit of a different color for these leaves that I'm getting ready to stencil. Once again, I'm trying to dodge that heart. I should have put tape on it, but I didn't. But I think it'll be okay. I like how this one leaf is all blue. Won't be all blue when I take up the stencil, but right now it's all blue. All right, so let's see what I created. Let's see if it's a mess or if it looks half good. Ready? And like I said, I don't throw these washi pieces away. I collect them right up here. And then when I need to build a collage, I build a collage with them. I think that looks good. I like it. Now, let's see what we need to do. We still have to do the edges. All right, so there is that. And I like how that turned out. I do know that I'm going to need to do this edge right here on the front. And it would be hard to do it when it's already glued over there, so I am going to go ahead and get that part done. And I am still going to do the edges here while I've got this out. I don't know why, but I feel like I need to do that now. So I'm going to do it now. Okay, I think that's all of it. Do I need to come down this side? Maybe just a little bit on the outside of those dots, just in case. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything. If I don't need it, I don't need it. It'll be awful hard to put on there later. Okay, and so we are going to, once again, glue these together. I'm going to line up those edges. They're not going to be perfect. I don't care, because that's actually kind of the whole theme of this thing is it's not perfect. I am going to put the glue on this one so I don't have to try to figure out where to not put glue on the other one. All right, so there is that page, and I like how that turned out. Don't need that. Next page. We're almost done with these. This was an extra writing sheet, and I'm going to back it with this page. Now, you can see there's a whole lot of space, so I'm going to have to come in way far with my edging ink. There we go. I lost my word. And trying to decide. I think I like this side better if I go ahead and just tear that little layer off. This is the one that is ripped, and I am just going to glue it to the edges, or to the page. But first I'm going to take my ruler, because I did not tear these 3 pages, although this one may not need torn. It's already pretty roughed up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I did already tear that side. Whoops. There's another thing that you can do in order to get a ragged, random look on your page, and I will show you how to do that in a later video, in another video. I don't know if you'll see it later or not. You might see it before you see this one. That would be just fine. All right, and I know I want to tear the top of this, but do I want to tear the bottom? I'm not sure yet. And we'll do this. All right, So I'm going to ink this page way in and then we will put this piece on. All right, now I am going to come in and do a little bit of extra on this one because there is so much space around the edges. I'm going to bring in another one of my stencils. And I'm just going to fill in here and there just so it looks like it was on purpose and that I didn't accidentally leave too much space. But I also don't want it to be a slam in your face. So I'm going to bring out the wild honey. Once again, I'm going to tap it off just to see. There we go. That's a little smoother. I'm just going to grab, whoops, I've got my masking paper way over in the wrong place. I'm just going to grab a few of these circles. Not going to hit all of them because I don't want to have to try lining them up across the whole page. I don't want to do that. Oh, I ought to do that though so that I've not got these straight edges to contend with. And I don't know just where that's going to sit yet. I want to make sure that I am kind of covering my bases. And I think right here. Just keeping it up in this corner and coming across a little bit. Again, keeping my edges from touching so that I don't have to worry about things. And I will go ahead and do this. Whoops. Well, right there, maybe that won't show. If it does, we'll fix it later. I do intend to use this as a background for a collage. This is actually the start of the collage. So it really will be okay. I kind of like that. So let's get the glue on here. I am putting the rougher portion up where the little marks are and that little layer of paper tore off. I'm going to tear that corner because it's just a little too sharp for me. There we go. This side is up. And on this one, I will glue all the way to the edges. All right, I like that. Just smooth this out. And there is another completed page. We'll slide that under there. Okay, so for now, we have created fronts and backs for several of our pages. I will work on this one in another video when I am showing you how I'm making pockets. It's a little bit more intricate than any of these were, so I am going to hold off even though it was in the same stack. I hope you don't get mad at me for false advertising, although you probably didn't see it until just now. And I want to show you real quick what we did. Right there we have a page that has a base for the collage on the back of it with writing paper on the back. Here we tore off an unwanted piece of the paper and stenciled behind it and backed it with this rose spray print. Here we took a piece of paper where I folded it in the center, it would have cut off the back end of the bird, and I didn't want to do that. So I backed it with mulberry paper, folding it behind the bird's tail, and then taking the excess over here and folding it up to create a pocket. This one got just a little bit of glue on there somewhere. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, okay, this one was fairly simple. The only fancy part of it is that I fussy cut around the scroll work to either make a flap or a tab. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do on that yet. This one is the same thing, except I know that I'm going to make a hinged flap. And then it has the writing paper on the back. This one had the lace tablecloth print on the back. And then these two were the first basic ones, where we just straight covered the backs with a copy paper weight print so that it didn't add too much to the bulk of the cardstock that I had the other pieces printed on. We did some stenciling and a lot of cutting, and I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you'll join me for the remaining tutorials and then on to the flip through of Mildred's Roses. Thank you for joining me today, and as always, be kind to each other. Bye.